Fiona Stafford was born in Lincolnshire. During her childhood, she moved around to wherever her father was posted in the RAF. She studied English at the University of Leicester, and it soon became apparent that Fiona was an extraordinarily talented student. Her undergraduate dissertation was a wholly original account of RAF slang. The distinguished external examiner of her finals commented that one of her examination answers was worthy of publication. In the event, Fiona achieved first-class marks in 9 out of 10 papers. That would make her the most able student in the 89-year history of the English department. Following graduation, Fiona took an MPhil and a DPhil in Oxford, and then, after initial experience of higher education teaching in the University of Evansville, Neen College, and as a British Academy postdoctoral fellow in Oxford, she was elected to a fellowship at Somerville. Fiona Stafford is Professor of English Language and Literature at Oxford. She is a distinguished academic with a dozen books to her name and an impressive list of published articles on a bewildering range of subjects. It takes a very special author to write about a novelist as famous as Jane Austen. In her book, Jane Austen, A Brief Life, Fiona points out the different groups of people who are interested in the author who lived for just 41 years. There are academics who spend their lives researching the life and work of Austen. There are the writers and artists who respond creatively to the themes in the Austen novels, like the Bridget Jones interpretation of Pride and Prejudice. Finally, there is the largest band of Austen followers eager to buy any Austen merchandise to cater for their needs. James Mcpherson is widely regarded as the first Scottish poet to attract international recognition. He translated poems attributed to an ancient Celtic poet called Austen. Mcpherson's celebrity status made the hero Fingal into a popular figure, as seen in Mendelssohn's overture to Fingal's Cave, a painting by Turner, and many French paintings commissioned by Napoleon, who took the poems on all his campaigns. The Austen poems are very popular and highly regarded by many critics and other poets. However, some doubt the role of Mcpherson as translator. Fiona researched this subject and wrote a startlingly original book on the Austen poems called The Sublime Savage. The book later won her to the Royal Society of Edinburgh, a rare honour for anyone based south of the border. In the book, The Last Race, Fiona investigates the perennial fascination with the end of the world, which has given rise to many last men, from the ancient myths of Noah and Deucalion to contemporary stories of nuclear holocaust. Fiona begins with Milton and ends with Darwin, exploring their myth-making texts in the light of contemporary literary, scientific, political and religious views. In a more recent book, Local Attachments, she explores the critical relationship between writers and places, starting with Seamus Heaney and tracing the importance of the local back to Burns and Wordsworth in the Romantic period. In addition to her academic work, Fiona frequently gives public lectures to general audiences on a range of topics. She gave a three series of essays on Radio 3, amounting to 15 programs in all on the subject of the meaning of trees. This led to a book called The Long, Long Life of Trees, published in 2016 by Yale University Press. She speaks and writes enchantingly about 17 species of trees, celebrating their beauty, their distinctive characteristics, their cultural history, their uses, and their meaning to humans. The book was well received and was chosen as Sunday Times Nature Book of the Year in 2016. The range of subjects in the chapters is quite amazing. For example, in the chapter on the ash tree, Fiona is initially on home territory of an English professor, writing about the poems of Hardy, Edward Thomas, Wordsworth, Seamus Heaney, the paintings of Constable, and even the Welsh song The Ash Grove. However, she is just as fluent in descriptions of the medicinal value of the ash tree and the snake-repellent properties of ash as described by the Roman natural history writer Pliny the Elder. In a more practical section, Fiona describes the use of ash in hockey sticks and cricket stumps, in the Morris Traveller car, and even in the construction of the World War II mosquito bomber. Finally, she describes the ravages of Challara fraxinea, the fungus that causes ash dieback, which has proved fatal to so many of Europe's ash trees. Writing about trees led Fiona into becoming a champion of the Woodland Trust Tree Charter of 2017. She was responsible for writing the charter, which brought her into contact with many people whose lives are spent working with trees and woodland. Fiona enjoys teaching, especially for the new insights students bring when reading the great works of literature for the first time. Fiona speaks of her years in Leicester with great affection. We are all proud of her achievements, and it is with great pleasure that we present her today as an inspiration to this generation of Leicester students. Mr. Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and Council, I present Fiona Stafford that you may confer upon her the Honorary Degree of Doctor of Letters.
Well, thank you very much to the Vice-Chancellor, the Senate and the Council for this great honour. And I'd also like to thank the public orator as well for that very generous introduction. And I'd also, while I've got the floor for a moment, like to say thank you to all the people who've been working behind the scenes. I've had many messages from Abu and people in the events department, and I know just how much work goes into organising such a complicated event and making it run so smoothly. So thank you to everybody. It's a very odd experience to be standing on this stage, because the last time I was here was when I was doing what all of you are and having my own graduation. And that was a very odd experience, because I'd been to De Montfort Hall many times, but mostly to see bands and concerts. So it was very different to be standing on the stage. One of my few regrets, probably one of my only regrets about my student days at Leicester, was passing off the chance of seeing Rod Stewart performing at the De Montfort Hall, because at that stage my friends and I decided that his career was on the way out. Now, little did we know that he would still be touring 4 decades later. So that was one of the many things I didn't realise when I was graduating. The other thing I think I didn't realise at the time was just how lucky I had been to come to Leicester to do my degree. When I was applying for university, I really didn't know much about universities, so I was just having a look when I went for an open day or an interview. And when I came to Leicester, there was a lift with no doors that never stopped moving. So I was very excited by that. So I thought, oh, this is the university for me. I didn't realise at the time that the very kind person who was interviewing me, and apparently taking what I was saying very seriously, was a world expert in Jane Austen. And I think that's where my lifelong enthusiasm for Jane Austen probably started. So I was very fortunate. And of course, when I got to Leicester, it was a marvellous English department, and I was taught by scholars of international standing, people like Martin Stannard, who's here today, Gordon Campbell, Ken Phillips, Kelvin Everest, a very long list of extremely distinguished people, some people at the start of their career and other people much further on. Also wonderful poets, people like Robert Wells. This is where I first heard Andrew Motion, who later became the Poet Laureate, reading, introduced by Monica Jones. So it's a very, very special time, and I think it's only later, looking back, that you realise just how fortunate you've been. All of these great scholars and researchers were so generous in introducing me to poems and books, approaches to literature, which have stayed with me ever since, really. And I think when you've just done your degree, you tend to sort of be looking at your marks, but actually the marks are so unimportant in comparison with what you've actually learned and experienced as a student at Leicester. So it's very exciting to see all of the new graduates sharing this experience. You realise quite quickly, I think, once you move away and into the world of work. I mean, for me, I never really did move away. I was so excited by all the reading and writing I'd done that I've just been doing that ever since. But lots of you will be going off into other careers, and you quickly discover the huge benefits of a humanities degree. As soon as you get into the world of work, you can write well, you can read quickly and accurately and critically, you can use IT very confidently and imaginatively. All of these are huge advantages in any profession that you might choose. You learn to test everything you're told, and I think at the moment in the sort of world of fake news, that's so important, that critical intelligence. So all of these are very valuable. But I think, having done an English degree, the thing that is really valuable is that you go away with your mind full of stories, full of beautiful lines and words, and they're a sort of lifelong resource which you keep revealing to yourself in surprising circumstances ever afterwards. You also come away with that understanding of how your own ideas have been enriched and challenged and clarified by dialogue with other people. And it's partly your friends, it's partly your peers, partly your tutors, but it's also all the great minds of the past who have been in different centuries, different circumstances, and yet have left something of themselves in their worlds. So it's an enormous gift that just keeps on giving. So that's what I would particularly like to say thank you to my tutors and to all of you who've been giving the same gift to all of you. So thank you very much.